Everybody, welcome to Kimmel's Irish Pub. We're back again. We brought Dominic back in. We're trying to get together every so often. And today we got something new. Normally we do some movie reviews or best of movies of certain time frames and stuff like that, which I think all of you like and enjoy. But this time we got together and decided, hey, we both love movies, superheroes. I'm partial to DC. And something I've always wanted to do was talk about, because DC is a lot different than Marvel in this aspect, is the many actors that play the various superheroes, right? In Marvel, now everybody likes, it doesn't change as often as it does in DC. So I thought it would be a great discussion to roll through some of the popular DC superheroes and talk about which actor we like the most in those different roles. I try and keep it to live action. I'm sure there's a lot of animation, and voiceovers and stuff like that. But I think it'd be really cool if it was just all live action and the people who played them. And in honor of that, I wore my Aquaman polo shirt. People always think it's a Star Trek shirt. So it's always funny there. But Dominic, welcome. Thanks for coming back. How's it going?
Good. Everything's good. Yeah, I'm a DC guy also. So when we had this idea together, I thought it was going to work out well. And I appreciate coming back. I love Kimmel's Irish Pub. I always have, every once in a while we do this. Schedules could be a little hectic, but I enjoy doing it. And it's, we're going to have some DC talk. And to find DC fans out there is a little bit difficult. To find people who are fans of this stuff is not that easy. So appreciate it for sure.
Got it. All right. I'm going to actually switch this to speaker view. I don't know if this will help or make it any cooler, but so we'll dive in. We got a little bit of time, and hopefully everybody enjoys this. And I'd love for people to jump in the comments, because I'm sure some people will agree with us and some people will disagree. So let's start off easy and early. I think it's easy, and I'm gonna flip it over to you to give your answer first. But my favorite superhero, and I'm not even sure why. I think it's because it was my favorite color as a child. I like the absence of fear in this person. But Green Lantern has always been one of my top superheroes of all time. So when you're thinking about Green Lantern, who was the person that you like the most playing Green Lantern? There he is.
It's really only one person. It's not that this is kind of an obvious one. Now, a lot of people didn't like the movie The Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds. A lot of people disliked it. It's become kind of a joke in Deadpool that nobody really liked it. But I watched it pretty recently, and I'm not going to say it's perfect. It definitely had its flaws with Galactus at the end. There's a big cloud type of thing, and the ending was a little bit fast. It just was a little anticlimactic, and it was maybe a little bit long in a sense. Two villains that, one villain was just kind of like to the side. So there were definitely some flaws to the movie, but overall, I actually thought that the movie was pretty good. I thought the movie was pretty good, so I held a little bit of a minority opinion. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was pretty good. And I thought that Ryan Reynolds did pretty good in a role. And one thing that you said a minute ago that resonated with me was we're talking about the absence of fear. And I took some notes here. In brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Beware my power, Green Lantern's light. The Green Lantern credo. And at the very end, at the end of the Green Lantern movie, this was said, of all the lanterns who have ever worn the ring, there was one whose light shined brightest. At first, his humanity was thought to be a weakness, and yet it proved to be his greatest strength. And I think that was kind of the key takeaway, humanity becoming your greatest strength, and, realizing that you have limitations and you have, things that you can't do 100% perfect. That's kind of what resonated with me in the movie, and it was caught in that last line that was said as he was flying away. So at the end of the day, I thought that The Green Lantern was actually a pretty good movie, and I thought Ryan Reynolds was good in a role. And I think that you said he was your favorite superhero, definitely DC superhero. I see why. He's not my favorite, but I do like him. You could basically manifest anything in your mind through the power of a ring, a dragon, a dinosaur, a flamethrower, anything. And it has the same powers of that exact item. It's pretty powerful. But he's limited by the determination of the lantern. But overall, Green Lantern, hey, I love Green Lantern.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, I think this one's really easy. Ryan Reynolds, obviously. Now, some history around Green Lantern. It was funny, back when I worked at one company, one call center type person. They called in Common. You ever hear of Common, the actor, and I think he does music as well. Called into our call center and told somebody that he was going to play Green Lantern in Justice League. This was years ago, many, many years ago. And I was like, how's that going to work? Because I always think of Hal Jordan, and that's probably the way we should have done it. And there's John Stewart. There's many different, obviously, Green Lantern. There's the Green Lantern Corps, everything like that. But Common, I was like, how's he going to play Hal Jordan? And I was like, oh no, he's going to play John Stewart, and they're going to introduce John Stewart into the Justice League. Would have given us another option to talk about here, but that never came to fruition. But so it's always been Ryan Reynolds. I agree 100% with everything that you said about the movie. The other thing that I thought was odd about the movie, it takes place in one day. Everything that happens to him happens in one 24-hour period.
I didn't realize it. I guess so. I mean, now that you mention it, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, that's just a lot, to happen, and he goes to other planets and stuff like that. But I always liked Ryan Reynolds from Van Wilder. When I first saw that movie, I was like, this guy just makes me laugh. I'll watch anything and everything. One of like only two people I follow on Instagram, celebrity wise. And the other one's Deion Sanders, but and continue to follow him. I think he's awesome, in all of his movies. And so him being in Green Lantern was just incredible. I liked it, and I like the fact that I think the other reason I also like Green Lantern is being a pilot. Growing up, I wanted to be a pilot. Of course, I'm not, but Hal Jordan having that background and the fact that the ring finds them is kind of cool. It's not like they have innate superpowers and it's all powered by the ring, but the ring finds him, and so that's kind of innate in a sense. So agreed. I know that was an easy one, probably one people were probably like tuning out now because it's like no kidding it's Ryan Reynolds, but had to throw it out there because it was my favorite. So let's go to a slightly more I don't know. There's options, and I'm gonna jump over to Wonder Woman, and I'll start on this one. Right, I think there's two options when we really talk about Wonder Woman. There's multiple options. I didn't, when you look at, and you can look it up, there's a lot of different people who've played in different situations. For me, it comes down to Gal Gadot and Linda Carter. I think they're that for me. And I think the directors, producers, writers struggled for years after Linda Carter did the TV show. They struggled to bring that character back to life, especially on the big screen. She's supposed to be an Amazon woman. She's supposed to be bigger than everybody else, but she's supposed to be a princess and stuff like that. And so there's a lot that goes into finding that. I read an article once about how difficult it has been for them, and that's why there's some other ones out there, but ultimately, for me, it was Gal Gadot. I guess maybe because it's more modern, because they were able to overcome the difficulties that they had to bring it to the screen. Very beautiful woman, and I think she just embodies the role so well. So yeah, for me, I think Wonder Woman is Gal Gadot. Hopefully that continues. There she is.
There she is. So I watched the original Wonder Woman recently, and I watched a sequel that wasn't as good, but it's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag here because I don't think that Gal Gadot is like some amazing actress. I mean, she's beautiful. There's no denying it. I mean, definitely. But I don't think that she's some like incredible actress. But I think that the material, especially in the first movie, was so good. Like everything around her was excellent. And plus her looks, I mean, I'm not talking about physically her looks per se, but I mean, like you said, it's kind of hard to cast someone who's taller than everyone else, who's more buff than everyone else, but it's also beautiful. It's not that easy. So they probably spent a long time. So her looks, her physicality, the movie, the fact that the movie was set in the Cold War era, and everything, the cinematography, the chemistry with the other actors, Chris Pine and everybody else, kind of elevated it. So even though her acting was like not great, it was like okay, good/okay. Just everything was just magically elevated. And I thought that she did great in the role. And I think that she kind of got better as we went along. I mean, although Wonder Woman 2 wasn't great, I thought she was fine in it. And the Justice League, the Snyder cut, and the Whedon cut or whatever have you, I thought her acting got better as we went along. So at the end of the day, it's a little I mean, I know that this DCEU universe is pretty much gone the way of the dinosaur, but it's a little disappointing that we'll never see her in the role again. I'd say we'll never see her in a role again. But I think at the end of the day, Gal, I mean, I think that they did pretty good. I'd say that they did pretty good. And actually, Wonder Woman is one of my favorite characters for DC, one of my favorite heroes. We'll talk about that. I don't think she's my favorite, but she's definitely in the top 2 or 3.
Okay. All right. Cool. You don't think that she's coming back, huh? Has that been announced, or is that just your? Are you giving spoiler
I mean,
alert?
nothing is rock solid. Anybody could come back, but I mean, it seems like James Gunn has pretty much moved on from that old universe with all those old actors, and they had their run. I think it's over.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I was gonna say, I didn't know. I know he's getting rid of everybody else, which is a shame. I always thought they could bring back Ryan Reynolds. You know what I mean? Like that would have been
Yeah.
awesome. And so, but okay. All right. Yeah, but I agree. I agree on her. Now, this one, we're gonna move into something new, and I'm gonna toss it over to you. I know I might be mixing up the order, but trying to throw you off your game here. Now, this one's a little bit tougher, and I think there's an obvious choice to this one, but there's a secret choice on my end. So I'm going to throw it over to you. I'm going to say, in the essence of the shirt, Aquaman. Who is your favorite Aquaman actor?
I mean, this is kind of another, we haven't like all the easy or the obvious ones. I mean, and I have all of them. I love them all. By the way, I did like the old DCEU. I wish it would have continued. I mean, I came across like I was happy it was done. It just didn't work out at the end of the day. But I thought they had the pieces to make something great. It just didn't come together. But to answer your question, we're talking about Aquaman. I mean, Jason Momoa was a little bit of an unconventional Aquaman, and in a way, I kind of always cheer unconventional things. I mean, when you think of the old Aquaman, like your T-shirt, you think of like the blonde guy standing there, maybe with a little fish next to him. You don't think of like the bro Aquaman, Jason Momoa, with like the eyebrow that, everyone loves his eyebrow that got, funny looking, and all the girls love him because he's handsome dude. But I ended up loving Jason Momoa. I thought both Aquaman films were pretty good. The first one was good. I know I hold the minority opinion. I thought Aquaman 2 was actually pretty decent or okay, at the very least entertaining. And he was pretty good in all of the films that he was in. I mean, the Justice League and some of the other cameos that he made along the way. I thought that he did good. Again, it was an unconventional role to, have a dude type of bro Aquaman type of guy. But I don't know. He just got the vivacious personality that it's hard to look at him and not, I don't want to say fall in love with him. The girls fall in love with him. It's hard to not look at him and say this guy rocks and he's a cool guy. We did okay with this Aquaman here. So I like the Aquaman movies, and I think Momoa did good.
Okay, yeah, and I think a lot of people, maybe not. I'm sure there's people out there who would say that that's the kind of obvious choice, very similar to Ryan Reynolds, and I thought, like you said, he was unconventional for the role that he had, but he was fun to watch. He had a nice piece of humor to a lot of the things, but still had that toughness about him. But this is the controversial one, and this is the one that I think this person I think embodies everything Aquaman is, and I think he would be awesome if they do decide to recast it and bring it back, which is a hard role to play. Aquaman is tough. And it's funny now that I think about it. Wow. There's another option out there, but I'll give you my answer because did you ever watch? Before I give you my answer, did you ever watch Entourage, the show?
Yes, he was Aquaman in the show. He played
Yeah,
Aquaman.
yeah, that's not who I'm
Yeah,
picking, but it just dawned
yeah.
on me when they had that when what was his Chase whatever his name was.
Vinny Chase played Aquaman.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not choosing him. That'd really be cheating. That's an actor playing an actor playing Aquaman. Alan Ritchson is my answer. So Alan Ritchson, the guy who plays Reacher.
Reacher.
Yeah, so he was Aquaman in the TV show Smallville. So if you saw Smallville, there
Okay.
was an episode where they brought in like all of the younger, they brought in a younger Flash, they brought in Aquaman, they brought in Green Arrow, and then of course Tom Welling as Superman. But Alan Ritchson, and he just when you look at the way he played that character, the way he looked, I mean, he had the blonde hair, he had the orange guild kind of shirt on and the green pants, everything you remember from, well, I always watched Super Friends and the Justice League and stuff like that. He really he was that guy for me, and I was really hoping like he would get cast into this kind of role. I thought he just looked so much like the cartoon character that I always thought he was, or the comic book character, if you will. So yeah, Alan Ritchson, which is outside of the norm of the Jason Momoa, but I really think if they do recast, he might get called.
I'm gonna have to go back and take a look at that. He might be too buff to be Aquaman now. He's built like a house.
He is. He is. He might not float as well.
Yeah,
But Jason Momoa is pretty buff too.
he's
So,
pretty buff. Yeah.
all right. So, yeah, that's my secret pick in there. All right. So let's jump. So I got you to go first. Now we're going to come back to me, I guess, on this one. And I think this one's down to probably three people. We're going to talk about Flash, right?
Okay.
So I think this is down to three people. And for me anyway, and I think it's probably down to two. There's one lesser known person out there that I won't share because it might be yours. I'm going to go with Grant Gustin. And I think the other person might be Ezra Miller, right, from the show. And when I think about Flash, I think there are parts that Grant didn't bring to screen. I think Flash has that immaturity about him. The comic book character. He very humorous, very funny, very light. And I don't think Grant had that piece in his character. But I felt everything else that show was on for such a long period of time, and everything that he did, he had such the I don't even know how to say it, like the superhero vibe, I guess, in that, he was always about the good, and while there wasn't a lot of humor, there was a lot of wholesomeness. That's, I think, the term I was looking for that he brought to light.
Sure.
And I just really thought that was great. I was hoping he would get the movie piece of it, but I'm okay that he didn't. But ultimately, when I think about them, I think about Grant Gustin. I think he was the best Flash for me, and I'll jump it over to you.
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. Yeah, I never really got. I like Grant as a person. I've seen him do interviews. I think he's actually awesome, but I never really got into the show, so I never really watched it as much. So it's a little bit hard for me to say, he's the best, considering I only watched like an episode or two.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that really leaves us with, I think the third person you were referring to was the old Flash television series that was on for a while there. I never really watched that. I mean, that predates, that's definitely going back in the past. So, that really just leaves me with process of elimination, Ezra Miller. And to tell you the truth, I think that Miller was just okay. He was okay. I mean, I didn't really like like kind of, he kind of played a little bit foolish. He kind of played a little bit too duncy. They said he was on the spectrum. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but he kind of came across as someone who just, wasn't really superhero material in those movies. I kind of like my Flash, like a guy in his, like, I kind of like a more established Flash. Like, I like a Flash who's been doing it for a while, is maybe in his mid-30s or something like that. It was, yeah, still has the jokes, but at the end of the day, could really, kick some behind. And I don't think we ever got that. Like, I like a more powerful, I like a more powerful Flash. I don't like the kid like Flashes. So I guess my answer is reluctantly giving you Ezra Miller because it's really the only one that there is for me. Maybe I will go back and watch the grand shows with the Flash. I know it was on forever, but it kind of just passed me by. I think the Flash is a great character who's a little bit underrated. I mean, sometimes people just think he's a jokester and such, but he could travel back in time. He could run faster than anyone. He could run up buildings. He could run around the world and punch, Lex Luthor in the face. I mean, I think that people underestimate the Flash a lot. He's a valued member of the Justice League.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of the original five from the comics and stuff like that. And the name of the actor, John Wesley Shipp. Yeah, yeah, Shipp was the original Flash
Yeah.
TV show that you're referring to. It is kind of, if you go back and see it, I got it for Christmas one year, like the DVD series. So it's a little cheesy, a little outdated, but he eventually then played Grant Gustin's father in the TV show. So it was a great nod to previous actors who played the Flash. That was the third one. Some people might say, they like him too. So cool. All right. So now we're going to get a little bit tougher, I think, right? I think there's a lot more options in the next two that we can go back and forth with, and I think they're all good. I mean, for the most part. But we're not here to who are the worst ones. We're here about who are the best ones, right? So, and I think you get to go first on this one, and I'm going to throw Batman your way.
Batman. I mean, everybody loves, Batman's probably the most popular guy now. So everyone loves the Batman. I'm going to start by saying I don't think anybody who's ever played the role has done a bad job. at the very least, I think they've done a serviceable, probably at the very least, they've done a serviceable / good job. I don't think I've ever seen anyone play Batman. I said, hey, he did bad, no more. So that's to the credit of all the actors and the production team. But at the end of the day, with Batman, I think we're going to have to go with the old school Michael Keaton. I mean, if you watch the original 1989 Batman, you could tell that there's something going on underneath. Just the way that he plays it, you could tell that, that there's something going on deep in his heart and deep under his skin, just from the slightest expression that he makes, just the slightest way he moves his chin and the slightest way he moves his lip. And if you go back and you watch the 1989 Batman, he's not trying to be scary or frightening. He is scary and frightening. When they see him come out of the shadows and just punch, and you barely see his cowl and his face. I'm talking about it in the original one. Christian Bale looked like they're trying to be Batman. He was Batman. He is Batman. I mean, it's a shame that we mentioned The Flash. It's a shame that, in my opinion, The Flash movie, he came back as Batman. It didn't really work out so well for a variety of reasons, in my opinion. But go back and you watch Batman 1989 or the Batman Returns with, Catwoman, and you're going to say, we see why he was cast wrong. I'm about to tell you something that everybody in the world knows. They didn't really want Michael Keaton in the role at first. They said, like, you're a comedian actor, you were Beetlejuice, you were Mr. Mom, now you're going to be Batman. That doesn't really make sense. Plus, you don't physically have the physique. I mean, he got a little more buff for the role, but you don't think of him, like we said, the Reacher type of guy. And they said, we don't really want him. And they pushed to get him in, and he did great. But I just want to give a quick shout out. I mean, I thought that, like I said, everyone else did well in the role. If somebody said, anybody was their favorite Batman, they could make a justification for it. I thought Christian Bale was pretty good also. He did 3 movies. I think that he was solid in all 3 movies. But at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go with Mr. Michael Keaton.
And that's great that you say that, and I love the Mr. Mom reference. Not a lot of people will get that one, but fantastic reference there, and I completely agree. Wasn't sure. I thought you'd go Christian Bale here, but I agree. I think with the next 2 superheroes, Batman and then eventually Superman, you have to think of it in 2 different ways. I know we keep saying, Batman, but you also have to think about Bruce Wayne, right? The actor's got to play 2 different people. And I think some people play, one well and the other one, not so well. Like, Robert Pattinson, right? Who, I think he did a great job or a decent job of playing Batman, but not Bruce Wayne. I don't think he played a great Bruce Wayne. And so I think when you look at Michael Keaton, he was a great Bruce Wayne. I mean, I thought he was phenomenal at playing that role. And so it is hard to picture him as underneath the mask as Batman, but when he did it, it was like unbelievable, and so I agree 100%. I thought he did a great job. And my favorite thing, because I don't have to add on to anything that you had said, but the one thing that, in addition to that, I don't know if you ever saw his commencement speech. He addressed, I forget what college he went, and he gave this beautiful commencement speech and everything like that. And he went to walk away, and he turned around and he goes, I'll leave you all with 2 words. And he goes, I'm Batman. And he walked away. I was like, that was awesome. So I agree 100%. Michael Keaton is, I think, the best Batman.
In a second, I've got 2 words that I want you all to remember. They're very important. And if I leave you with anything, I'm going to leave you with these 2 words. And those 2 words are, I'm Batman.
All right. So I'll jump over to Superman. So I think, again, there's a lot of people who played Superman, right? I mean, there's a lot of people still yet to play, and there's so many TV shows and movies out there. But again, you have to think about, sorry, a little foot clamp. No, you got to think about both roles, right? You can't just think about Superman, but you also have to think about Clark Kent and who played them both. And for me, and it seems like, I don't know, I feel like I'm going very old school now. We went Michael Keaton, and I'm going to go Christopher Reeves on this one. I mean, like, you think about the silliness behind Clark Kent. He puts on glasses, and nobody can recognize him. But then when you see the way Christopher Reeves acts as Clark Kent, with those glasses on, he's so clumsy, and like aloof and all this kind of stuff. and he fumbles around at the Daily Planet and all that. I think he does that phenomenally. But then when he takes those glasses off and he puts on the cape, it's unbelievable. What a transition! Like now he's confident, and you could just see the transition between Clark Kent and Superman when Christopher Reeve plays it. And so again, there's a lot of other people who do that. I'm just going to throw one other person, Brandon Routh. I think played a really good Clark Kent. Maybe not so much the Superman part. So I'm just trying to give an example of where I think he embodied both characters when playing Superman. So toss it over to you.
I think Superman. I think, Jeff, that you think I think that I look a little younger than I actually am. But I think that you think that, but I've seen these movies also. And I think it would be again, I'm going to prelude this with this. I think that everybody has done, at the very least, a good job as Superman, some better than others. But at the end of the day, it's impossible to not say that Christopher Reeves was the best Superman / Clark Kent. It just is. I'm not going to repeat everything that you said, but the clumsiness of Clark Kent and the hope, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow of Superman, and just the way he stood. Like if you showed his picture to like a 10-year-old kid, they would just say Superman. Just the way he is, he was Superman. He is Superman. There were such great movies. I mean, I know there were 4 Christopher Reeve Superman movies. The first 2 were great. The latter 2 weren't as good, but he was good. He put in 100% in all of them. And by the way, there was a documentary that was released on Christopher Reeve very recently. As of the date of this airing, I know for a fact it's on Max at this time. It's not about Superman per se, but it's a documentary just about Christopher Reeve. Superman plays a big part of it because that was his key role. And I saw it in the movie theater, and it drew me to tears. And it drew everyone else in the movie theater to tears. Everyone was moved to tears. But I want to give a shout out to some other people who played Superman in the past. Like you said, maybe he wasn't like the most amazing Superman, but I think you said he was a good Clark Kent. But I think at the end of the day, he did pretty good in a role, and it was kind of sad that it didn't move forward because I thought his movie Superman Returns was pretty good. I watched it recently. I thought it was quite good. Brandon Roth, like you said, I thought at the end of the day, he did good. And more recently, I don't know, I don't watch the TV shows as much as you do, but I watched every single episode of Superman and Lois rather. Tyler Hecklin, yeah, whatever precisely his last name is. He did a good job. He did a fine job as Superman, but the material on that show, Superman and Lois, was excellent. The last episode was on about 2 weeks ago, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, I watched it because it drops like very early in the morning. And I'm telling you, Jeff, I was in absolute tears at the end of the episode. I was just thinking about it. It's making me emotional. Superman and Lois, and he did a great job. That was probably one of the best scripted endings of a television show I've seen in my life. Wow. I was really so emotional so early in the morning. Please watch it. It was, even if you just watch the last episode, fantastic.
Huh. I actually I love that show, right? I love the family aspect of it with the young sons, even though one of the actors left after the first season. I liked him a lot, and I understood he had to go through things. I know we're transitioning into talking about Superman and Lois, but I really enjoyed it, and I watched it up until this last season because this last season they got rid of like everybody, and so it fell off my radar. You know what I mean? Like he had, we talked about the girl from Entourage, and we didn't talk about Entourage. The girl from there, I forget what her name is, but Emmanuel Jacuri was a part of that show, and her family in there, and the role that they played in that. I thought, and then they got rid of all of that, and then so I was just like, oh, I don't know how interested I am. I never got back to it, but now I will. I'll have to go back and watch this season.
I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up. They made this big deal in the news that they got rid of all those people and they had budget cuts. But I'm telling you from my mouth to God's ears, if you watch the show, you would never know that they quote unquote got rid of them, because they really didn't. They just had slightly less screen time. It focused more on the core family, but they made it. I understand why you wouldn't have watched it because they made it seem in the news that they were just all fired, but none of that was true. They were in it almost as much. If you didn't read that, you would know nothing if you watched it again.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good to know. I'll put that on again tonight. Go back to that. So
yeah.
All right. Well, good. They're all of our heroes. I don't know how much time we have left. Well, why don't we go through two villains rather quickly? So I started the last one. Why don't you pick? Well, we know what the two villains we're going to talk about. You could pick which villain you want to talk about first, and then I'll do and we'll continue that way.
Sure. I think we'll go. I mean, I'd say we'll go. He's actually not my favorite Batman villain, but I think we'll go the Joker first. So Joker, and I think that my favorite Joker was. I think, well, again, I think all the Jokers did a very, it's not just a serviceable, a good job, but I think they all did a very good job at the very least, even the quote unquote worst one. But I think that the best one has to be Heath Ledger. I'd say the best Joker has to be Heath Ledger. I think most people would agree with that, even with Joaquin Phoenix in his Joker movies. But I think that Heath Ledger definitely did something really, really, really special with that role. I still remember seeing the movie for the first time in the cinema, and I think it pretty much blew everything away. And he was another one. I mean, he was a handsome dude, and they're like, "Well, you're going to play a villain, the Joker. You're known for being in A Knight's Tale and some, Romeo type of guy." And they didn't really want to be really reluctant about him at first, but I mean, it's been talked about to death. But he was just excellent. That movie was excellent. I haven't seen that movie in quite some time, The Dark Knight, but the Joker definitely made that movie. For sure, made it.
Yeah.
So I'd
Yeah,
say
I, I agree 100%. I think he should have won a post-mortem Oscar or whatever it's called.
he did.
Or that he did? Okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, or no, I think no, I know he did that. I think he should have gotten the Oscar that year. I think he
yeah,
won it the year after or something like that.
something like
But
that.
anyway, I agree 100%. He was phenomenal. And then he was the focal point of that movie. And like you mentioned, A Knight's Tale. I was going to say 10 Things I Hate About You. Not something you would think that Heath Ledger is going to play, and here he does a phenomenal job. So real quick, we got a minute here left. We'll jump over to Lex Luthor, right? Many people have played Lex Luthor, and I'm going to go back to my Smallville days again and go with Michael Rosenbaum. So I don't know how much you've watched Smallville, but I thought he was a phenomenal Lex Luthor, and just seeing him at the young age of transforming into who he was gonna be.
Who's gonna be Lex? Oh, real quick for Lex Luthor, I'm gonna go a little unconventional. A lot of people didn't like Superman Returns, but I thought, even though he has kind of a bad reputation now, Kevin Spacey was excellent in that movie. His material might have been kind of this way, that way, but I think that he did a very good job playing Lex Luthor. I mean, I know most people would say Gene Hackman, he was good too, but for whatever reason, I connected with the Kevin Spacey Lex Luthor in the Superman Returns movie because he was sinister. You really thought that this guy could do something to destroy the planet and not look the other way.
Yeah. No, that's a great call. I didn't even think of that. Jesse Eisenberg, you think of Gene Hackman, of course, but that's a good call out, Kevin Spacey. I know, yeah, like you said, a little bit of a trouble, but you can't take away from what he did on the screen. So, all right, so that concludes what we think are the best actors to play a DC superhero over live action over the last couple of years between movies and TVs. We've gotten a couple of superheroes and threw in a couple of villains really quickly at the end. But I thought we did a pretty good job. Like I said in the beginning, hopefully there'll be a lot of comments of people either agreeing with us or debating us. And if you like this content, let us know. Dominic, I'll let you say some closing remarks.
I mean, from one DC fan to another, I mean, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And at the end of the day, I mean, whether you like Marvel, you like DC, or you like both of them, or you like, Superman or Batman, it's all about fantasy. And it's all about escapism, and it's all about finding yourself in the hero that you like, in a matter of speaking. So I don't think that you could go wrong with anyone. I think it's a good thing at the end of the day. It's fans coming together, so that's always positive.
Yep, I agree. Well said. And thanks for joining me today again, Dominic. Look forward and check us out again. I'm sure by the end of this month, we're going to do our, second half of 2024 best and worst movies. So that'll be coming out soon. But continue to check back at Kimmel's Irish Pub. And I thank you. If you stuck with us this far, I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.